What's worse than not starting a podcast? It's starting a podcast, running it for 6 to 12 months, and then realizing that the goal that you set out from the beginning or the expectation that you had was wrong, and therefore you didn't get the results that you were looking for. That's way worse because now you've invested all this time and energy and money. Welcome to B2B On Air. I'm your host, Joseph Lewin, and today I'm going to be talking about 3 of the most common goals that you should think about when launching your show. Or if you've been running a show for a while, you might want to think about this and make sure that your goals align with the expectations that you have. Now, there are some other things that you could do, some other types of podcasts or reasons you launch a podcast, but these are the 3 main ones. The first one is you want to drive revenue. You want this to actually bring revenue into your business. The second one is audience growth. Now, there's a lot of reasons that you might want to do that, but you could kind of chunk this into a brand play. You do it long enough, you're going to gain a reputation. It's going to make it easier to sell, and maybe you'll get some inbound from it. And the third one would be thought leadership. And this is going to be primarily your host growing their authority and their thought leadership in your space. Now, these 3 goals are not mutually exclusive, but whichever one you focus on is the area you're most likely to see results. And as much as I hear people say, yeah, we want to grow an audience, that's what our primary goal is, or we want to grow thought leadership, and that's so important. What I've found is that almost every single time I launch a podcast with a client, what they actually want is revenue, because you get 6 months or 9 months in of spending a couple grand a month running a show for a client, and they don't actually see a deal close. Man, it's hard to convince them to continue going for another 6, 12, 18 months it's going to take for them to get the other results that they want from growing an audience or thought leadership. By saying that, I've kind of already let the cat out of the bag, but I don't want to dismiss these other 2 goals because sometimes people actually don't want to generate revenue, and then these other 2 options are super viable. Okay, so again, that would be goal 1, driving revenue. If you want to drive revenue through your show, the most effective way that I have seen to do that is to create a show not about your own expertise or the things you care about, but figuring out what is it that your ideal customer actually cares about, what do they love talking about, and invite them on their show to share their expertise. People love it. They love you for it. You're still going to gain authority and brand awareness and audience over time, but then you're really focusing on how do we maximize the relationship with this guest and make the experience for them so amazing that they want to do business with me. With audience growth, so I have this content that I create that has nothing to do with B2B marketing. I cut things up with chainsaws and burn them and build things. And across YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, I have well over 100 million views at this point. And I can tell you that creating content that's going to catch in the algorithm and grow an audience is insanely hard. Even when you're burning things, you're doing something crazy that's visual and you can have all these scenes change all the time, it's still really difficult. And so unless you have a very strong personality, and unless you're going to be covering things that are really interesting and think about this as a media property where you're really an entertainer, growing an audience is extremely hard. But if you like doing that and you really want to invest in the storytelling and you're willing to put in a couple hours per episode to plan and record it, then that really might be a good option. And over the course of 12 to 18 months, it really can change your business. But you have to know that you need other ways to drive people to grow an audience. That would be email, speaking at events, etc. And then thought leadership. This play works really well if you're speaking, if you're doing other things that to grow your thought leadership. You've written a book, you're getting out there, and then the podcast is a supplement to those things that really helps solidify your thought leadership. But if you're not doing those other things already, thinking that a podcast is going to all of a sudden create those other opportunities is just not realistic. And so what you have to do from the beginning is figure out which one of these 3 goals do I actually want to do and be realistic about it. If you want to grow an audience, you have to really evaluate yourself and go, do I have the personality to make this happen? If you do, lean into it. Create some short videos and see where you get. If you don't, that's okay. You can still drive revenue for your business as you learn to do well on camera by starting a podcast to generate revenue. Invite people who you want to do business with onto your show, interview them, make them look good, make them feel good. You'll get better on camera, and then you're going to get revenue into your business before you keep going. Now, after this podcast, you're going to go, Joe, you're incredibly biased. Yes, because I've done this a lot of times. And the amount of people who I've met who can actually grow an audience through their podcasts are really few. But I've worked with people who are not great on camera yet. They're not that charismatic. They don't have a strong point of view, and they outsell other podcasts because they started out with the right idea from the beginning. That's my 2 cents. If you totally disagree, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a DM, yell at me on LinkedIn. And with that, I'll see you on the next episode.